This is number 9 in my recording. Takes a little while. I've done some crazy things in my life. In fact, I've done a lot of crazy things in my life. But this is by far the craziest thing I've ever done. I had a friend there that run a hamburger joint, B&H hamburger joint, and he was telling me how he had a girlfriend in Uniontown, 6 miles away, and how he would, at night, put his car on a railroad track and get over. He'd put it on a railroad track and let it take off on its own, and he'd get over and scoot over and get a little loving while this car would take him to Uniontown, 6 miles away. And he swore that would work. You just didn't want to go too fast. But the secret was you just did not want to touch the steering wheel because you could never drive good enough to keep it on that track. But the track would cut up in the track and the tire, you wouldn't have to let the tire air out. As long as the car sat on the track right, it would do it. Well, I had an old Model A Ford at the time that I was running around playing with, and I went back in behind back up a little bit. This railroad from Morganfield to Uniontown was 6 miles, and at that time we all knew that it was a deadhead. It was only used once every Saturday morning. The railroad would come through and they'd go down to Uniontown and get a tanker of oil and from a tank farm down there and bring it back. So the track was used once a week on Saturday morning. Knew we wasn't going to meet a train. So I went back behind the cemetery there in Morganfield. Got the Model A up on the railroad track, and sure enough, the tire set right on it just perfect. And I had 2 guys with me. I can't remember who they were. And I told them, I said, we don't want to touch the steering wheel. So I pulled the throttle out and just bent it down where it held it like a cruise control, running about, maybe 10, 12 miles an hour. And that car just went right on down the track, followed it just like a train. We climbed up on top of the car, and I rode that car 6 miles to Uniontown on the track. I'll tell you, the smoothest ride you'll ever ride in your life is on a train track in a car. It was very smooth. But what was silly and dangerous about this, I didn't even know this, but about 2/3 of the way down, this railroad track, most of the way it ran right parallel with the highway, but then it went back into the woods, and lo and behold, I'm sitting up on top of this car, nobody in it at all, running about 10 miles an hour, and here is a huge railroad trestle over a real deep creek, and it must have been 30 or 40 feet straight down. The railroad bridge, like it doesn't have a floor in it, just got some railroad ties, but there's no floor in it. And God knows I was scared to death. There wasn't no way to do anything about it, just sat there in the road. It went right across that track, over that trestle, just no problem at all. Went on, completed the trip to Uniontown. They got the highway in Uniontown where it crossed, just jerked off the track and went on downtown and drove around. Then we got ready to go back. I put it back on the railroad track again there at Uniontown. Rode back the 6 miles again to Morganfield. I did that a second time. Once I had all the boys and everybody I'd told this story, everybody wanted to try it. So I went back one Saturday morning, or Sunday, I believe it was a Sunday. Anyway, it must have been 7 or 8 of us. Whole damn top was full. I put it on the track, and we took off and made it all the way down to Uniontown again. And on the way back, we had somebody to follow in a car. And on the way back, we put it on the track at Uniontown to go back, and we pulled the throttle down about 10 miles an hour and jumped off of it. Nobody in it. And then we get in the car and race 4 or 5 miles up the road where the track and the highway run parallel. And we waited for it. And sure enough, here come the thing coming down the railroad track. By then, the old radiator had been leaking a little bit, and it was steaming out the radiator. It looked like a train coming down the track. And here it come down the railroad track by itself. And me and one of my other buddies stood on the side of the track, and when it came by, well, I just jumped up on the running board. Well, I never had jumped a train, and if you're going to get up on something moving, you got to run along the side and jump up on. Well, I just stepped up on the running board when it came by, and about that time that rear fender hit me in the butt and sent me down the ditch rolling, knocked me down. Car going on. This boy with me had enough sense to know to run along beside it and jump up on the running board and cut the throttle back. And then I got aboard and we drove it the rest of the way into Morganfield and took it off the track. I made 2 round trips, and now I look back, that thing came off that trestle with 7 or 8 guys on top of it, killed all of us probably. I know that's wild, but I can't believe I've done that. But I can tell you this, a car will definitely go down a railroad track. You don't have to let the air out of the tires. In fact, old Model 8 tires are real narrow. They're not a whole lot wider than a railroad track, but it runs just fine. Never ever made an effort to come off. And I made 2 6-mile round trips, and I don't think I want my grandkids to know that.